I wrote this story on the day that I resigned, as I sat there, absolutely exhausted. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, it feels like I just came out of a battle. And it wasn't just the fighting that exhausted me. It was the armor. And I could feel it all around me, weighing on my shoulders, all the things that I had put on me to protect me and to keep me safe. The helmets and the mask that I wore so that I was impenetrable. But I need to go back in the story. I need to tell you a little bit about Karimi. You see, I love rules. Tell me how to do things, explain to me how we get ahead, and I will do those things expertly. The teachers loved me. I did brilliantly at school. Yes, I was that kid. Woohoo! My people are out there. But Karimi, the rule follower, walked into the workplace. And suddenly, the rules were different. They made no sense. They were contradictory. So what did I do? I followed them all, right? Even the contradictory ones that made no sense. And it actually worked out really well as well. You see, from the outside, my life was perfect. I was married to my high school sweetheart, living in the suburbs. Shout out for the husband. And I had been promoted to my first CEO role at 31, had my perfect pigeon-pair children. Perfect, right? Yes, thank you. That is exactly how it looked, except it was all an illusion. I was casting out this image of having it together, but on the inside, I was absolutely lost. You see, I had chopped and changed and shifted every single piece of me to fit this mold. I remember one of the rules was, do not show emotion as a woman, particularly as a leader. And I stood in the mirror and I practiced keeping my face absolutely still. So the comments would not affect me, and the questions about my capability would not make me react. But you see, I was taking some knocks, and there were bruises. I was so lost in this battle that I did not even know what I wanted. I remember when my daughter came 6 weeks early, I took 2 months of maternity leave and came right back to work, so I'd be the CEO who could have a baby and come back. One of my lowest moments, and I'll never forget this, was sitting in a meeting where I was the only woman, and this was often the case, and an inappropriate sexist joke was raised. And usually, I'd power through it. But this time I felt my mask begin to fall. And thank you, Zoom, I switched off the camera and I pretended to go to the bathroom. And I sat there in shame as the joke went on. And after what I felt was an appropriate time to have been in the bathroom, switched on the camera again. Smile in place. They would never know. You see, this was my life. The pretending, the being okay, the making it okay for others, the completely losing myself so that I could become everything the world told me I needed to be successful. But you see, in those moments where I thought that I was winning the battle, I wasn't. And I had these moments of falling over, sitting down, feeling absolutely weighed down by all the expectations, but just getting really good at putting the armor back on and going back out there. As you can imagine, this couldn't go on forever, and the cracks began to show. My first burnout, yes, I had more than one. I remember that my body did the strangest thing because I had been suppressing and pushing down all the real feelings and emotions that they had to come out somewhere, and they came out as tears. And so I remember the first time it happened, I turned to my colleague and I said, my eyes are leaking. Because I literally could not believe that Karimi, who shows no emotion, was tearing in every moment because the feeling would come and it had to go somewhere. And that's when my husband sat me down and he said to me, you cannot continue like this. I'm watching you lose yourself every single day. And he held up a mirror and I finally saw myself. I saw that I'd become everything I said that I hated, that I didn't want to be. And I had to make some really brave decisions. And I began to ask myself, what if? What if when I was scared and uncertain, I said that? What if I told people that I was afraid and I actually had no idea, most of the time, what I needed to do next? And the most incredible thing happened. As I shared, as I cried, as I became more real, it felt like it gave people around me permission to do the same. And then that's when I realized we were all pretending. We were all walking around with our armor, pretending to have it together, and just wearing our masks in every moment. And this is what I now know. I spent a good portion of my career turning down the volume on everything that made me real and whole and human. And I've had to find ways to find that voice inside me that is telling me what gives me real joy and turn up the dial. And now I'm having a bit of fun. I'm no longer following the rules, and I'm experiencing some moments of true joy. And in my work, I now help others who are trying to find and navigate this world as well. But I'm not standing here because I've conquered this. In fact, standing on stage talking about a vulnerable story is my worst nightmare. But I'm standing here because I want my children to know that they don't have to turn down the volume on everything that makes them real, everything that makes them unique in order to belong. And I'm standing here because I have had to learn to make the choice to turn up the volume and live in full bloom.
Yo, Karimi. I want to tell you, not only was she really brave to share a deeply vulnerable story, but all the speakers have been practicing for around 6 weeks from the beginning of August. And last week, Thursday, one of our speakers dropped out. And it just happened that Karimi phoned me and said, hey, I've applied and I've never got in, and what's the story? And we were chatting, and then I thought, ooh, do I ask her? And so I said to her, do you want to speak? And she said yes. And I said, you're on the stage in a week's time. How amazing! Amazing! Wow. And what a beautiful talk. Well done and thank you. Thank you for rising.